Daf Zion. We are a little bit into it already. Although Dovri got us a little bit ahead, maybe I will just start from the top of the daf, just because it's to pick up the whole momentum, because the whole real daf sort of starts from the beginning. So let's take a look from two lines from the top. Amar Rabbi Avo, says Rabbi Avo, Gadol Yom Gishamim. So the Gemara is now moving away from talking about different stages of the rain, Yoreh Umalkoch, earlier rain, later rain, interpreting the pasuk about when God's, when you're given the rains at their right time. And now we get to a broader discussion about the power and the religious significance of rain, which, if you think about it, is really like, if not the major theme, certainly one of the major themes of this Masechet. So let's take a look. Says Rabbi Yavo, great is the day of rain, from the resurrection of the dead. The resurrection will only be for the righteous. When it rains, even the wicked benefit from it. You might say, for some people's perspective, that might be worse. Why should the wicked benefit? But no, it's better. It brings life to all. Rav Yosef. And this argument, Rav Yosef, because it's equivalent weight to the resurrection. That's why it's in the bracha of the resurrection. And this is going even further. This is saying it's even greater than the resurrection. Amar Rav Yudah, says Rav Yudah, Gadol Yom HaGishamim Ki Yom Shenitna B'Torah. It's as great as the giving of the Torah. Shene'emar Yarov Kamatar L'Tchi. Let flow like a drain my giving. The ein lekach, and the taking, the giving, el Torah refers to the Torah. Shenemar ki lekach tov nasati lachem. Torati al tazuv. I've given you a good purchase, a good taking. Do not abandon my Torah. So it is like, so my Torah flows like rain. So God's Torah was given at Sinai. God's direct giving of it was at Har Sinai, and therefore that is like the rain. Rava says, Yosem Yom Shenitna B'Torah. It's even greater than the day of the giving of the Torah. Shenemar Yarov Kamatar L'Chi. Let my Torah drop like rain, flow like rain. Minit leb'mi. When you say let A be like B, so which are you making dependent on which? Have you omer katan leb'gadol? The smaller one you're saying is like the bigger one, right? So her lips are like roses. So the more powerful image is the rose, and the other thing you're comparing to the more powerful image. So the more powerful image here is the rain, and it's the Torah, which its power and its impact is less obvious and less powerful. That you're using the rain to give it its power and give it its impact. Now, I want to say something about that, because it really does reflect a reality of what's going on in these, in this whole Gemara, which is in the, biblical texts. It's true. Something like, the giving of the Torah and other things, or whatever, Torah, etc., all compared to rain. This will be like rain, that it flow like rain, and so on. Which means that the power, the image, not just the imagery of rain, but sort of the importance of rain, is taken for granted. And therefore, if you want to communicate that something else is has similar sort of weight and significance, you want to compare it to the thing which everybody understands its meaning of. So this is like rain, and let it flow like rain. Oh, rain is beautiful. It gives life. It's nurturing. We get that. Oh, so this is like rain. When the Gemara has to reverse it, the need to reverse it shows almost a reversing of a frame of reference. And it makes sense. Like, if I wanted to impress upon you how important rain is, you wouldn't start with a real appreciation of how important rain is. You're not a farmer. You don't work out in the fields. You don't really understand why on a day-to-day, powerful, emotional basis about the sense of the necessity of rain and the meaning that it rains when you need the rain. So I would have to give you a metaphor so that you could appreciate it. Let's say you were waiting for your kid to come home from camp, and you were waiting, and all of a sudden, how would you? Oh, well, that's like it is when it rains. Okay, you need that metaphor because you don't live that reality on a day-to-day basis. Somebody else, you might have to say the opposite. When my kid came home from camp, it was like the rain when it finally came. So the question is, minit leb'mi really reflects a lot in terms of your experience and your frame of reference, and which type of model is the more sort of powerful and emotionally resonant imagery. So I think it's quite fascinating that the Gemara is actually sort of doing that. It's saying if you want to appreciate how rain is, look at it's as important as Torah, it's as important as this, whereas in the Psukim, it's actually using it to communicate the reverse message. So it really sort of shows you a shifting of, I think, frames of reference. Okay, so now we have that the rain is important as the day of the giving of the Torah, and it's greater or equally important to the Tchiyat HaMeitim. Right, take the Tchiyat HaMeitim idea. I mentioned the other day a point that I think from Ruven Kimmelman, who says that the reason they put rain in the bracha of Tchiyas HaMeisim, I mean, this is just his argument, but it's to give more persuasiveness to the idea of Tchiyas HaMeisim. How am I supposed to believe in the resurrection of the dead? Well, look, you believe that God brings the rain, right? So God brings the rain. What's the rain? It comes from heaven. It goes into the dead earth. Things are buried under the earth, and then things sprout forth. Well, that's Tchiyas HaMeisim. Things are buried in the earth, and then they're going to come to life. So in that imagery, right, we don't take for granted Tchiyas HaMeisim. We take for granted the rain. And I try to sort of give you a feeling for Tchiyas HaMeisim by talking about the rain. The Gemara, again, is doing the reverse. Rain is so important. It's as great as Tchiyas HaMeisim. I take for a point of departure that you take for granted Tchiyas HaMeisim, and now I'm going to help use that to help you appreciate how important rain is. So it is quite, I think, fascinating how this sugya reverses the frames of reference and talks about like where the point of departure is. Okay, so Rava shows a contradiction. Ksiv Ya'arov kamatar l'chi v'ksiv tizal katali mati. So what is let it go like rain? And the word we're going to see in a minute, Ya'arov, like you do arifat of the egel arufa, it's like to break the neck. So it's powerful, it's breaking rain. And tizal flow is like katal do soft, do flows, it's pleasant. So which one is it? So in Tamid Chacham Hagunhu, if he's an appropriate Tamid Chacham, so Ketal, then let the Torah, sort of flow, drop on him like dew. Give him your Torah in a loving way. Now, by the way, I'll also remember Talmid Chacham is a student of the Chacham. So this is like if your student, your young Torah student is an appropriate student, then let the flow Torah be nurturing and drop on him like dew. But if he's, he's not acting appropriately or he's got a little bit of a character issue, then Orfeu Kimatar, break his neck or whatever, break him like powerful rain, which presumably isn't meant to be treated literally, but it means like, maybe the Torah you teach has to be a harsher one because it has to do something to work and correct his character as well. And gets back to, another theme that, of course, we're going to see, which we've already seen, is about how this leads to our sort of responsiveness and how we interpret the meaning of the rain. Like, is the rain a siman klala? Is the rain a siman bracha? What type of message is coming from this? Again, here in the terms of Torah, but the way the Torah you teach reflects the person who's receiving it. And that's going to have also a parallel in how we interpret the way that the religious meaning we bring in to when the rain, and how is the rain coming and so on. So which we've already sort of begun yesterday. Tani we turn to Brisa, Hayre Bina Omer, Kol Osek B'Torah Lishma. Now that we're discussing Torah, now we're going to move a little bit away from the rain metaphor and bring in new types of metaphors in the discussion of Torah. So we're going to digress a little. Thank you to discuss about Torah. If you involve yourself in Torah for its right sake, the Torah will become an elixir of life. It is a tree of life for those that hold fast to it. It will be a healing to your flesh. Because the one who finds me finds life. If you call it 3 psukim, if you involve yourself in it for the not right purpose, nasis lo sam hamaves becomes a poison. Shene'amar ya'arof kamatar likhi, let flow like the rain my lekach, my giving, my Torah. Vein arifa el hariga, arifa means to break the neck. Shene'amar v'arfu sham et hagala b'nachal. So not here just that it's like a harsh Torah that you teach, but it actually turns into a poison. Now, this is obviously challenging the Gemara. It's not the only time the Gemara says this, because we know the normal principle of the rabbis is mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. From the not right reason, you do things for ulterior motives. It leads ultimately to doing them for the right motives. So Tosfos has a classic answer to this. If you took a look at Tosfos, kol ha'osek b'torah shelo lishma, Tosfos says v'kasha v'lo amrinan la'olam yasok adam torah afak gav she'eino lishma, shemto shelo lishma bo lishma. So the Torah and the Gemara realizes that we can't always be doing it for the ideal reason. Saying that it becomes a poison. There are two types of not right and not ideal reasons, not ideal motivations. You're doing it for honor, for self-interest. We all have our own personal, selfish motivations, even when things that are supposed to be selfless types of enterprises. With poison, you're learning it as a way of attacking, of critiquing, of being antagonistic towards the Torah. You're going to learn this in order to disprove it. You're going to learn this in order, to lead people astray. That's where it's like nasalo sammavis. So that's, the classic explanation given. I don't necessarily have a better one, but that's, acknowledging that issue. I should also say it's an interesting question of what you mean when you say sammavis. Like, does the Gemara mean to understand this like literally, that, somehow you'll be punished and you'll die as a result, God will punish you, or does this mean this like more at a religious level? The same way when it says, when the Torah gives life, is that supposed to be treated literally, or does that mean spiritual life? Well, I don't know. I don't know if I translate this. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I translate that this life just but in terms of resurrection as opposed to spiritual life. But anyway, but I wonder here also if the sense of maves also just means it lead to like a spiritual death. You think you're involving yourself in a religious enterprise, but ultimately that could lead to, a spiritual death as well, depending on what your motivations is and how you might be perverting it. I want to also say something here because we've been talking about the use of metaphors, which is we're now going to get into a section where it's going to get on a whole discussion of Torah and using a range of different metaphors for Torah. Even though the whole thing is about rain. Rain is like Tchias Mason. Rain is like Torah. Oh, now we're talking about Torah. Let's talk about Torah. And then I'm going to bring in a lot of different metaphors for Torah. So I think it's also interesting, again, talking like about a shift of a frame of reference, that when Torah now becomes like the central mode, so, the focus of their, sort of from their religious perspective, number one is to appreciate rain as opposed to the reverse. To appreciate Torah, we use rain, but to appreciate rain, we use the Torah. Rain is as important as Torah. But also, if you want to talk about Torah, then you can't, the Gemara almost feels like it can't limit itself to one type of a metaphor, rain. That's not a powerful enough way of communicating everything we want to communicate about Torah. So now we're going to have to, bring in a whole other collection of metaphors to give expression to all the different things we want to say. So the first one, while it quotes the rain, has already introduced two things. It's a tree of life, and it's a poison, or it's an elixir, I'm going to be introducing a lot more different types of sort of images and metaphors to give a full expression to the things we want to say about Torah. It's sort of, but on the other hand, like you wonder, what is it they say? The Eskimos have what is it? I don't know if you say Eskimos anymore. Yeah. What do you say? It's whatever. What are the
Eskimos are fine.
Okay, fine. Anyway, they have 70 different words for snow. If you really know something, I'm sure you could use, the imagery of rain to communicate a lot of nuance, if you really appreciate the totality of that thing. But the Gemara is going to be drawing on other types of images, and it's already started that. Yes.
So when this text is talking about Torah, is it speaking about an external text, or is it speaking about the authority of the institution of the Chacham?
When it says when God says that, the day of giving of the Torah, or when it says if you learn Torah lishma?
No, when it says Torah will become like poison.
Oh, the Torah will become like
poison. If you're not learning, what is that Torah? Is this Torah that we're discussing?
Yes.
About rabbinic authority?
I didn't think so. What would make you say that?
Because what's surprising here is that you've taken the Torah in just these last comments,
right,
from being the crown and the ultimate comparison,
right,
and the strongest source of everything in the world,
right,
to then understanding that it can be used and abused,
right,
and it suggests that it's going to rise up against those who seek to abuse it in some way,
right,
and it is going to be some of it,
right.
What at least we don't know what
right.
that means. So, who is some of it? The Torah,
Oh, so you're translating in very pragmatic terms. If you act this way, the rabbis are going to come after you, type of a thing.
Is Torah both the text and those who are the authoritative interpreters of that text?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying that the rabbis don't often sort of put themselves in the equation in a lot of places, but I've never really gotten a sense that was what was going on here,
So So otherwise, it's sort of like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to abuse the external spiritual something,
Right.
then it will somehow
Come out again.
exert its authority.
Right. That's not the end. That's the middle of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. The end is when they bury it in the. They bury it.
You're right. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. Yes. Anyway. I understood it to just mean the metaphysical power of God's Torah. I mean, Torah very often is personified, and I don't think it's. Obviously, it's Torah is. As the rabbis understand Torah, it's not reading the Bible like, a Christian would read the Bible. It's reading it through a rabbinic lens. But I never understood it was about rabbinic authority in these texts. Yeah. One minute.
I just want to clarify. In the Tosafot that you read, is this distinction emerge under the influence of the Crusades during their time? In other words,
you mean about people, about that's an interesting point. Maybe. I mean, it is a real problem in the text, but it is interesting that emphasis of lekanter.
What would have given the thought?
Could be. I mean, it's not like the Gemara does not also discuss that. People that try to use it to find, to critique and so on. But that's an interesting point. I will say that Rashi says, when he says, Lishma, Kasher tzivani Hashem Elokai v'lo ketei lichkar Rabbi. So Rabbi understands that the Shalom Lishma is a simple interest of selfish self-interest, of selfish interest. Right. Yes, you had a question?
I was just going to say, I don't know, I don't think the rabbis think Gemara necessarily thinking in this way, right? But if you think about the way that Rambam thinks of Hashgacha Pratit, right, that it's not that, you do a bad thing and God presses the smite button, but that God sort of has built into the world certain natural consequences.
Right.
Right? And so, his example is, that when they say Avodah Zarah destroyed the first Beit HaMikdash, it wasn't that God, spoke to Nebuchadnezzar and said go. It was that had they spent their time studying what they were supposed to be studying, like war, then they would have not lost the Babylonians instead of studying Avodah Zarah.
Right. So I think you could be understanding that in a normal way. Right. There are things that you could take that do, if you take them the right way, they'll be a cure, and if you take them the wrong way, they'll be a poison. Okay, let's keep on going. The Gemara says like this. The Omer. Okay, where are we? Okay. 5. I'm going to Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yomi said to Rabbi Zera, "Leisimar, lisni, let the master come and teach, and teach us some Torah." So Amalei, so he said, "Chalash libai, my heart is weak. I'm feeling a little bit ill. So v'lo yachilna, I don't have the strength to give a shiur." So Lemar Mil said, "Okay, you can't give a real shiur. Teach some Agadata." So I'll let that one go without comment. Amalei said to him, "Hachi Rabbi Yochanan." This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. My dechsiv, what's meant by the verse? Ki hadam eitz hasadeh. Like that, obviously, it's meant rhetorically. It's a person, a tree that you should fight against the tree in the war. This is about not cutting down the fruit trees when you lay siege to a city. So really should be as a tree, a person. But okay, anyway, go back me. Anyway, the Adam so it's reading it not rhetorically. Because a person is a tree. Is a person a tree? Ella mishum dechsiv. The verse says, Ki mimenu tochal ve'oto tichrot. You should eat from it if it's a fruit tree and not cut it down. Dechsiv, and the other verse says if it's not a fruit-bearing tree, oto tashchit v'charata. You should cut it down and destroy it. Haketzat. So how does this translate if we're reading this as a human being? In Talmud Chacham Hagunu, if he's an appropriate Talmud student, right? And therefore here it means like he's a fruit-bearing tree. His learning will bear fruit, and maybe it also means he gives Torah to others. Then mimenu tochal. Then you can benefit from his fruit. Then you should learn from him. Interesting. Before we were talking about teaching this Talmud Chacham. Here we're talking about here we're talking about learning from him. And then you can eat from him, benefit from him. Tolo tichrot. Do not cut him off, which almost goes without saying. Tozu says it means that if you want to go learn from another person, don't cut your ties with this person. If he's a good person, even if you're not eating from him, don't cut him off. In love. But if he's not worthy, you should destroy him. You should completely cut off your relationship with him. Don't learn from him if he has inappropriate midot. Right? So here it's interesting. On the one hand, right, the Torah, you should make it a harsh Torah to try to correct somebody of poor midot. And here it's also the Torah that's produced is not one that you should benefit from. So clearly Torah is something that is very much intertwined with character and the importance of character. Again, though, notice now that we're talking about Torah, we're shifting the metaphor. Staying in the agricultural world, at least for now, but we're shifting it from the rain to the trees. Okay. So now the Gemara says like this. Okay. Amar Rabbi, is that where I am to? Amar Rabbi Chama. It says Rabbi Chama, Rabbi Chanina, Ma'itachsiv. What's meant by the word? And now we go from trees and rain to other things. Barzel bebarzel yachad. Iron against iron together. Lomar l'cha, to tell you. Ma barzel zeh echad mechadedet chaveiro. The same way, if iron, like you have two knives, one of them sharpens the other. You rub, metal against itself, like one sharpens the other. So two students of the sages sharpen one another when in the learning of halacha. It's interesting also why it shifts from Torah to halacha. I don't really have particular insight into that. But we are now also shifting to the importance of chavruta. And this is like a theme now that the Gemara is going to turn on, the importance of challenging, and rubbing against one another ultimately leads to ourselves sharpening our own understanding.
Or contrasting with the Gadata.
That's interesting. The sharpness you need for halacha, as opposed to a minute ago you were only able to teach Haggadah. I hadn't thought about that. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a sharpness you need in the halachic realm. Okay, I'm a Rabbi Barbarchana. Lama nimshalu divrei Torah ke'esh. Again, what to me is what stands out about all of these is the multiplicity of images that are being produced about Torah, starting from a whole focus on rain. Okay, why is Torah like fire? Shenemar, as the verse says, "Hello, kol divarai ke'esh nu Hashem." So are my words like fire, says God. Lomer l'cha, to tell you, ma'esh eno dolet yichidi. The same way you can't start a fire with a single log of wood. Aftivei Torah ein mekaymin b'yichidi. Or won't sustain by one log. You need like multiple logs or multiple pieces of wood. So Torah isn't sustained by an individual. You need a community. That's what Rabbi Yosef. So that presumably isn't necessarily about chavruta. That's about a community of scholars. Okay, but this is also what Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina says. What's meant by the verse? Cherev el habadim v'no alu. A sword against the badim. We'll see how it translates that, and they will be foolish. Cherev also nehem shal timnei chachamim. A sword should be against the haters of the sages of the rabbis, which really means the sages of the rabbis, but we don't want to say something bad about them. But in the following circumstances, she'oski bad bevad, if you learn singly, alone, so that's el habadim. If you're learning by yourself and not b'chavruta, so now we're not talking about community in general, but specifically about chavruta. If you're learning singly and not b'chavruta, a sword should be against you. The lo of b'torah. The low owed, and not only are they doing something bad, Ella shemetapshim. Not only are they not getting sharper, they're getting stupider. Okay, they become stupid. Shenemar vino alu. They'll be foolish. The low owed Ella shechotin, and it's a foolishness. It's a sin. See, if you're involved in Torah, to be foolish is to not be doing your obligations. Ksiv hachal vino alu, to be foolish. But ksiv osam asher no alu v'asher chatanu. We've acted foolishly and we have sinned. If you want from here, no alu saret soan v'itu et mitzrayim. So have act foolishly the princes of Tzoan, and they have led astray Egypt. So being foolish in Torah, particularly in halacha, leads to going astray. Yourself leading others astray leads ultimately to sin. Okay, so the great responsibility of accuracy and sharpening yourself, pushing yourself, and what that means in terms of also the sense of community and particularly learning bechavruta. Okay, so a lot of powerful statements here about Torah. It's a source of life, the importance of chavruta, the downside of it, if it's done wrong, it's a source of death, the importance of character, how if somebody is roy, not roy. So, a lot of, but all communicated, as I said, through a wealth of different imageries. Okay. Where are we? Okay. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Lama nimshalu divrei Torah ke'etz. Again, notice the way also these things are introduced with lama nimshalu. The Gemara is even drawing out the different uses of imagery. Why is Torah compared to a tree? Shene'emar eitz chayim hi lama chazikim ba. It's a tree of life. So we're still on the same theme, although a little nuanced. The same way when you make a fire, you need like the little twigs in order to get the big logs to catch on fire. So no longer we're even in chavruta. Now we're talking about the younger students, the more sharpen the more senior ones. So the same way, the small little twigs get the big bonfire, get the big logs to catch on fire. This is what Rabbi Chanina says. I've learned much from my masters, from my colleagues more than my masters, and from my students more than all of them. why is it that the sense that the students more than all? So Rashi says, Taanit Mechadim, Rashi, I don't know, about 20 lines from the bottom, he says, Shisholim kol sha'a. They're like relentless. They're constantly nudging you because they have all these questions and they have maybe the enthusiasm of youth. You could also say because they ask like the stupid questions that that nobody else asks, but those are the real good questions. Sometimes you're too much taken in by the norms of the discipline that you're a part of that like you don't ask the more fundamental questions that are the ones that like really need asking. When somebody says, I want to ask a stupid question, you're like, oh no, this is going to be a hard one. so anyway, but this is again, the imagery of fire and of wood. Now it's no longer an eighth of tree, but an eighth of like wood, is again used to the importance of the dynamism that is in Torah. And I do want to say something again about that. Again, I don't know because I'm not a farmer and I haven't don't really have this full experience of what it means rain and rain when you need it and the different types of rain. But at least from my, non-farmer perspective, using some other imagery gives much more dynamism. To say Torah is like rain to me is a little boring. Water, nurturing, okay. Fire, lighting fires, little twigs, sharpening knives one against another. There's much more, I think, a sense of dynamism and life that's being conveyed this way. So again, it is an interesting question of which is your primary frame of reference here. Okay, so now the Gemara continues the following way. Back to water. Although I just mentioned water, now we are circling back to water, not rain, but water. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa Rabbi. Rabbi Chanina bar Papa shows a contradiction. See, one verse says, "Likras tzamei hatayu mayim," to greet the thirsty, bring out water. Another verse says, "Hoi kol tzamei l'chula mayim." Come all thirsty, come to water. So did the thirsty come to water, or do you bring the water to them? Again, back to an appropriate student. If he's an appropriate student, you might bring water to him. You should even go out of your way to teach Torah to an appropriate student. And if he's not appropriate, let him come for the water. Let him maybe show a little motivation or a little perseverance to really, if he really wants to do it. Maybe it'll be a good test. Maybe it'll bring out a stronger part of his character. It is interesting. One should note that here he is still at Sameh. He still is thirsting for Torah. So what's Eino Hagun? Eino Hagun doesn't mean like he's like there kicking and screaming. He wants to be learning Torah. He is thirsty. But maybe certain students, you need them to a little bit prove their mettle, in order before you start, giving them what you have to teach. Rabbi Chanina bar Chama Rami. Rabbi Chanina bar Chama shows a contradiction. See, it says, Yafotzu mayonotecha chutza. Your well springs should burst forth to the outside. Famous pasuk quoted in by what's his name, by the Baal Shem Tov, right? Isn't that in the letter of the Baal Shem Tov? Anyway, he says that there's this vision that he had. They said, when is Mashiach going to come? And he was told Mashiach isn't going to come. Actually, until your well springs burst forth, until I guess Hasidic teaching spreads forth throughout the world. Anyway, so here is your well springs will burst forth out to the outside. Another verse says, so again, Torah here is water, back to Torah being water, right? The wellspring water. But the other pasuk says, keep it to yourself. Don't let it burst to the outside. So what's the answer? Taanit Haganhu. So if you're teaching an appropriate student, then your Torah, your wellsprings can burst to the outside. You can share with him all of your Torah. But if he's not appropriate, you have to keep some of it to yourself. Right? Because specifically we're talking about like the esoteric, Ma'aser Merkava, Ma'aser Gracious. But maybe it also means you have to be a little bit discerning. Again, the similar type of a concern to like the Shalom Lishma, closes to the point of potential misuse. Some people hear things and hear what they want to hear, and maybe you have to be a little bit more careful of exactly what you're sharing and how you're saying it. Here, why is it made compared to water? To tell you, the same way water glows from the high place and finds the low place, finds out the low land. So again, going back to this issue of Hagun and Eino Hagun, and here being a little bit more explicit about what's Hagun, somebody who is a lowly mind, which means here in a positive way, which means somebody who's humble. Okay, so the Torah stays with somebody who is humble. The Amar Rabbi Yoshaya said Rabbi Yoshaya, Lama nimshul divrei Torah l'shlosha mashkim halalu. Why has Torah been compared to the following three liquids? What are the three liquids? B'mayim u'b'yayin u'b'chalav. Water, wine, and milk. The Ksiv, water, it says, Hoi kol tzemei l'chu l'mayim. The Ksiv, in another verse says, L'chu shivru v'acholu, go and purchase and eat. L'chu shivru, and go purchase below chesef or below mechir, without money and without exchange, yayin v'chalav, wine and milk. And that's understood to refer to Torah. So why is Torah compared to water, wine, and milk? Lomar l'cha, to tell you, the way you keep water, wine, and milk fresh is you keep them not in like fancy gold and silver vessels, as we'll see. You keep them in pottery vessels, and that helps keep them fresh. Similarly, Torah is only kept by somebody who is humble, is not taken by themselves, and the lowliness of the vessel helps contain the Torah within. The case of Rabbi Yoshua. So the daughter of the Caesar said to Rabbi Yoshua ben Chanina, what beautiful Torah is being kept in such a disgusting vessel. Apparently Rabbi Yoshua ben Chanina was somewhat ugly. So Amar La, so he said to her, does your father keep his wine in pottery vessels? Amar, she said to him, what do you think he should be putting it in? Amar, he said to her, look, you guys, you're so important. You're the Caesar's household. Why don't you put it in gold and silver vessels? So Asla, she went. She said to her father, well, let's put our wine in gold and silver vessels. Okay, so they did it. The tokif, and it turned sour. Asuva amrulay. So people came and said to the Caesar what happened. So Amar La, so he said, Labarte, he said to his daughter, Man Amar Luchahachi, who told you to do this? Where did you get this crazy idea? Amar Le, she said to him, Rabbi Yoshua ben Chanina. So this rabbi. So Karyua, they called him. Amar Le, they said to him, Amaya Marta Lahachi, why did you tell this to her? Amar Le, he said to the Caesar, Amar Le, Amar La. What she said to me, I said to her. You said you want to keep something beautiful in an ugly vessel. So I said back to him. Rashi says he did not explicitly tell her, like, you should put it in this other vessel. Like, that would be playing with fire in the Caesar's house. What Rashi says is he was responding to her rhetorically, and she interpreted it as a literal suggestion. He said, well, why don't you put your wine in gold and silver? She said, oh, that's a good idea. So he wasn't actually suggesting it. Anyway, okay, so the Gemara says, now the Gemara actually, we talked before about empirical evidence. The Gemara actually does challenge this empirical. The Gemara says, Va'ika Shafiri G'Gemiri, what do you mean? There are very handsome people, good-looking people that know Torah. So the Gemara says, Zainam and Bet, Yahavu Sonu Tfei Ave Gemiri. If they were ugly, they would know even more than they know now. So Tosa says, not necessarily if they were ugly, but if they valued beauty less, or if society valued beauty less, not necessarily we want them to be ugly, but anyway, it's not, it still gets in the way. Our own sense of being a little bit too taken by ourselves doesn't allow us to be completely dedicated and self-sacrificing, and also maybe search for truth in the same way. Maybe we get a little bit too much focused on our own sense of what's right and not a full sense of, of being of the sense of this lowly vessel that can really sustain and contain everything.
That or sour grapes.
What?
Yeah.
That or sour grapes. Yeah, okay, all right. Anyway,
Sandu is like when snow.
Yeah, but they
would reject that more. They would
no. Well, that's, I think, like Tosfos reads it, but Rashi just, I think just reads it if they were more disgusting, like not, yeah. Tosfos says im hayuson im hayofi. Okay, that's how Tosfos says it. Right? The process of the previous omelet. Okay. Okay. Back to these three liquids now. They only will spoil if you stop paying attention to them. You don't put the cover back on and put them in the fridge. So although water exactly not clear, but Rashi says, it'll get impurities will fall into it. So you have to cover it and protect it. Torah will only be forgotten if you stop paying attention, which is an interesting way of phrasing it, as opposed to saying it'll so easily be forgotten unless you really work at paying attention. Here it's like more like the negative, which is a little bit more reassuring. As long as you don't have Hesed Chadas, it won't be forgotten. I don't know. To me, it's a little bit more reassuring than saying you have to repeat it. You have to constantly pay attention, or else you'll lose it. But anyway, but that is also very different than the idea of being a nice vessel or an ugly vessel. Here it's saying Ela behesed chadas. Maybe if it's in a nice vessel, that won't cause it to be forgotten. It'll only be forgotten if you stop focusing and paying attention to it. I'm Rabbi Chaim Bar Chanina. Now, so that's was a whole big digression about Torah. You see again, sort of the world that's the bigger frame of reference of the Gemara is the Torah, but now we're circling back to the rain, which is where we started. So we said the day of rain is like the day of giving of the Torah, the day of rain is like the resurrection, and now we're going to get another thing about the power of the day of rain. I'm Rabbi Chanina. I'm Rabbi Chama Rabbi Chanina. Gadol Yom HaGeshamim Ki Yom Shenivu Shamayim Ba'aretz is as great as the date of the creation of the heaven and the earth. Shenemar Ha'ifu Shamayim Mima'al Ushchakim Yizu Tzedek. The heavens will like drip forth from above, and the heavens also will flow righteousness. Tiftach aretz v'yifru yesha. The earth will open up, and salvation will flower forth. Utzedakah tatzmiach v'yifru. I guess yesha v'tzedakah tatzmiach yachad. Salvation and righteousness will blossom together. Ani Hashem barativ. I, God, have created it. Beratim lo nemar, it doesn't say created them, the heavens. Ele berativ, it. What's the it here? So the Gemara understands that the it is the rain, is the so it's what the heavens are dripping forth. So therefore the rain, and it uses the word bara to create. So it's like the creation of the world and of the heaven and the earth. Now I do want to also say something about these metaphors about rain, and this is very important to the theme we're dealing with. Right? Because the question is, and this is going to be a major focus, is the whole importance of the rain, because we need the rain in order to live. And therefore we pray, because without having the rain, we don't have what is sustaining us. But that's one way of learning it. But what we are going to see in this Masechet, and I think it's already been alluded to, is much more than that. It's that the presence or absence of rain, besides its importance in our, physical well-being, is a manifestation of God's closeness or distance to us. And we've talked about that. We pray up to God. The rain comes down from God. It's about giving life, but ultimately it's a manifestation of God's connection to us. So therefore, these ideas, it's like the day of the resurrection. You could read this as, because resurrection is about giving life, and rain gives food, which is life. It's like the Torah. Torah gives spiritual life, rain gives physical life. But also, all of these things are very much about God's, direct interaction with the world, right? God creates the world. Tchias HaMesim is like this worldwide, obviously miraculous, almost recreation, and about the future. And the giving of the Torah is the direct manna, is God's revelation. So all of these things, rain then becomes about God's revealing God's presence in this world, and us experiencing God's presence in this world in a way that brings life and brings creation and brings all these things, but it's all very much also about God's very felt, and manifest presence. And that certainly seems to be like a common theme here, and something that we're going to be regularly revisiting.
You're saying that is the understanding of the authors of the Gemara at a time when their agricultural system was 100% dependent upon the natural occurrence of rain.
You mean that it was more than just that they saw religious meaning in it, and they saw a sense of are we feeling God? We see the rain, we feel the immediate sense of God answering our prayers and God desiring us. That's what I'm sensing from the Gemara.
I'm asking whether you're describing what you read as the intention of the authors of the Gemara, or whether you're describing man's interaction with rain today.
No, not with rain today. I think, like I said earlier, I think today we are, first of all, we're very scientific and we don't see it religiously at all. And number two is most of us here are completely removed from that reality, so we don't treat it with that much import.
And even if we were in the reality in developed economies, the agricultural system is not as dependent upon rain.
That's also true. Our dependency on rain, right? I mean, it depends where. I mean, in Israel, people are much more sensitive to that sense of but yes, I completely agree. I'm not at all suggesting that's our experience. I'm saying that is, I think, both the physical reality, of the Gemara, its dependency and the power of it and their lived lives and their religious sensibilities, and the lack of, I think, how they have read everything through a scientific lens. I mean, I also think that's an important point as well, which is even for people that understand that there are other natural causes to things, I think there's a question of the primary lens of which we interpret reality. Like, I think for us, it's not just that we understand there are natural causes, we really interpret everything through a scientific lens, through natural causes, as opposed to a type of a mentality that fundamentally interprets things, or, religiously, even if they can understand that there are also natural explanations for things.
I'm sorry, just to push one step.
Right.
Are you analyzing this, or are you asserting that's an error?
I'm not asserting it's an error. I'm talking about different perspectives, just different ways of interpreting reality. I mean, both could be true, but there's a question of what's your primary lens. All right, anyway, but yes, I am talking about very much how I think the Gemara is experiencing this based on all of those things. It's religious mentality, and it's the role that rain played, and their connection to the role that rain played. And I do think that, as we'll see, that consistently is the theme of this Masechet. So again, not just its importance because look, it gives life, but because of look, God is operating in the world, and we're experiencing God's operating in the world. Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, says Rabbi Yoshaya, Gadol Yom Geshamim, great is the day of rain, Shafilu Yeshua, even salvation, Perei Urevei Bo, is fruitful and multiplies on a day of rain. So there again is a nice expression. Rain is, when it's raining, that's also a sense of divine salvation. Shene'emar, as the verse says, Tiftach Eretz, the land will open up, Yifru Yesha, and salvation will multiply. Fine. Amar Rabbi Tan Chubar Chanilai, Ein Geshamim Yardim, Elen Keinim Chelu Avonosayim Shel Yisrael. And now, so I really think these are all very intimately connected. If rain is also about God's presence, and salvation, and God's sort of, bringing God's, nurturing to the world and immediate, acting in the world. So then it also connects very much to our sins, or our mitzvot. So therefore, if it's raining, it means that our sins have been forgiven, that God is close to us, God desires us. What's that closeness about? That our sins are forgiven? Now, by the way, whoever said we sinned? And this also puts an important twist on the Masechet. The Masechet is, it's not raining, oh my God, we have to cry out, maybe we've sinned, etc. And we'll talk about the role that sin plays. But when you say the day your sins are forgiven, what does that associate with? Your sins are forgiven, like it's Yom Kippur, it's a day of grace, it's a day of, I wasn't even thinking I had sins, but the fact that it's raining shows me how much God desires me. It's a completely expression of divine love and divine grace.
The Geshem is Mataya.
Maybe also.
There is an implicit possibility.
Right, about the water as purification. Although, I don't exactly see that here, but okay. But I do see it as, again, an expression that how much God is close to us and intimate with us. Yes.
This is it. When the power of our sins have the power to disrupt the course of nature.
Right. And that we're going to see in the remainder of the Masechet. But I'm saying even before that, it's one thing to say, we've sinned, it hasn't rained, we'll do tshuva, it'll rain, that'll show that we fixed our problem. This is like, we didn't even acknowledge that there was a problem. It's raining, that shows how much God loves us. And the very expression of rain is an expression about unconditional love. And I've forgiven anything wrong that you've ever done. Ratzita Hashem Artzacha, God, you have desired your land. Shavta Shavus Yaakov, you have returned the returning of Jacob. Nasata Avon Amecha, you have lifted off the sin of your nation. Kisita Kochatatam Sela, you have covered over all of their sins. Amalev Zeiri Midi Yahavat L'Ravina, so Zeiri from Yahavat, as Rashi points out, it's not the Zeiri Stam who lived much earlier, said to Ravina, Atun Mehachamas Nisula, you learn out that idea from that pasuk you just quoted. Anan, we Mehachamas Nisula, we learn it out from the following pasuk. You'll hear the heavens and you will forgive the sin of your people. Now that pasuk is different, because that pasuk, as we read when we started Taanit from the Tefillah of Shlomo, is there's no rain, people will cry out to you and you'll forgive them and bring the rain. But that's very much that process of starting with a sense of sin and the distance because of sin. Again, I think it gets a different valence when you just start by saying, if it's raining, it means any sin you've had has been forgiven. The rains are only withheld. Now we get to the reverse. If the presence of rain is God's is giving of the Torah, Tchias HaMesim, salvation, forgiving of sin. The absence of rain is a sense of God's distancing from us. And therefore, if there's no rain, if they're being withheld, it's because the Jewish people, or literally the haters of the Jews, are deserving.
Israel are Jews.
Are Jews, right? Are deserving destruction. Shenemar, as the verse says, Tzia gam chom yigzulu meinei sheleg sha'ol chatau. So the famine and the heat, they have stolen the rains of the snow. They have sinned to the very depths. So if there's the thirst and the heat, meaning there's no rain, and the rain, the waters of the rain have been taken away, that's because they deserve to go down to the Sheol, to the very depths, because of their sins. Amalei Zeiri Midihabas Ravina. So Zeiri from Yahavas said to Ravina, Atu mehachamas nisu. Wow, I'm dropping by the minute. Atu mehachamas nisu. You're learning out. This is something I said. You're learning out from here. Anan mehachamas nisu. Now we learn it out from the following verse. I will hold back the heavens. Below you'll be quickly driven from the land. So very clear, if you sin, no rain, and you're driven from the land. One does wonder why it did not quote that pasuk, which is in the Torah and much more, first of all, much easier to pasuk to interpret. But anyway, maybe that's, at the collective, or that's about exile. This is about Gehenna or destruction. But anyway, not exactly clear why one would have gone to the earlier verse rather than this. Amar Rav Chisda. So again, focusing now on what absence of rain means. Rains are only withheld. El b'shvil bittul trumos u'masros. Now we're getting to more minor sins, and now we're getting, I think, to the lesser point about the broader theological meaning and sort of, the interpretation of reality to this type of a sense of this thing happens for this particular sin, like a type of a correspondence. Okay, Shene'emar, as the verse says, Gam chom yigzulu meimei sheleg. My mashma. Where do you get it from that verse? Taanit be Rabbi Shmuel b'shvil dvarim shetziviti etchem b'yimot hachama. Why is it that you're not getting the waters of the snow and the rain? Because of chom. Because of things I have told you, tziyah, like tziva, things I've commanded you about the summer and the sunny months, the spring and the summer, which is to give the trumas and misos when you're harvesting the grain.
What does tziyah itself mean? The pshat?
Thirst. The low.
Like means sameh.
So yeah. The low. Sally, you want to say something? Okay. The low asitim, and you didn't do them. So if you did not do the things like tziva in the days of the sun, then the rain will be stolen from you in the times of the rain. And now, of course, there, by the way, there is the logic. There is, I do think this makes it a little more mundane. It's a little bit like equivalence, but the logic you understand. The logic is trumas and misos is about giving from the grain that grew as a result of the agricultural blessing. If you do not acknowledge God and God's gifts and God's presence and God's hand in your agricultural bounty, the response will be that you will be punished accordingly and you will not get blessed in the same way. So there's a very, logical type of a correspondence there. And now we get to maybe a little less of a logical correspondence. The rains are withheld because people speak evil tongue. So the northern wind will blow away the rain, and like an angry face will a speech in hiding or in private, a secret speech. So what does that mean? It means that it's read that obviously the Lashon Seiter is Lashon Hara, gossip, which is said in private, and as a result of that, the wind will blow away the rain, and you won't have the rain. So again, I don't exactly get the correspondence there. Amarav Salah, Amarav Hamnuna, Ein Geshamim. What?
The wind can cause death to another person.
The power about wind.
Your Lashon Hara can cause.
Right. So the power of
sending that out.
Right. So that's the power of the wind. Right. I was thinking about that. The ruach is, but the question about the power of the rain.
So the rain, in other words, gives life.
Oh, and
Lashon
your
Hara,
ruach,
yeah.
your ruach blew away the rain, as it were, a different type of a ruach,
There's
right?
sending bad energy that
I
causes
see.
harm.
Right.
So you're not going to get the life giving.
Right. No, that I see. Okay, right. That's right. Okay, but I was talking like specifically in the context of rain. I thought you were also speaking about the ruach. The wind blows away the rain.
I'm talking about rain.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Amar of Salah, Amar of Abduna. Ein geshamim netzarm elo b'shvil azei panim. So rain is withheld because of brazenness. Okay, again, don't exactly get the exact correspondence. Shene'emar, the imnu revivinu malkosh, withheld, the drops and the rain. Umakosh lo haya, there was no rain. Umeitzach isha zona hayalach. And the forehead of a brazen woman or of a prostitute you had. So that brazenness is somehow drives away the rain. Again, it's in the pasuk, but I don't get the exact correspondence. Now that we're talking about brazenness, any person who has brazenness, ultimately it leads to sin, which usually here means sexual sin. Right, so it talks about sexual sin and somehow connected with the meitzach, with the brazenness. Presumably, it means maybe if you're not ashamed, sometimes it's shame that keep people from sinning, or being afraid they'll be found out. If you have no shame, then you'll give in to your lustful desires. But Nachman Amar, it's not that it will lead to sin. If you're showing brazenness, that's a indicator that you have already sinned. Again, particularly sexual sin. Shene'emar hayalach, isha zona hayalach. You've had a prostitute. V'lo ne'emar yiyalach, you will have a prostitute. So reading meitzach, if it's a meitzach, then isha zona hayalach. So that brazenness is coming from a way of maybe covering over, your the sins that you have done. And your sexual sins. Amar Rabba, Barafuna. Anybody that has brazenness, mutually close or Russia, you can call them evil. So the same way before we digressed about Torah, now we're digressing about brazenness. Shene'emar ha'ez ish rasha b'fanav. So to be strong against like a wicked person in his face. So but it calls him an ish rasha, wicked. So you can call him wicked. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak amar mutulis noso. You can hate him. Shene'emar ve'ez panav yishuneh. The strength of his face will change. Altuki Yishuna will change. Ela Yisne, you shall hate him. Amarav Katina. All right, so that was a digression about brazenness. I don't have too much to say about that.
Is there something behavioral about when the Gemara says, mutually snow? In other words, like in your heart and in your mind, or do you stop talking to them? Do you stop business with them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, to one degree, it's referring to the pasuk "Lotisnes achicha bilvavecha," so saying it's mutually snow-so, but there actually are some practical implications for that, in various gemaras. So I think it probably means both, but you're right, it's not being elaborated here. So to come full cycle, if and again, one also wonders if there's an echo here about all this brazenness about a Talmid Chacham of a good character and not a good character. But now we're coming full cycle about Torah and rain. So we never said before that it rains because of our Torah, but here we're saying that that if there's no rain, it is because of Bittul Torah.
By the way, the sexual.
Let's just go on. Okay. Shenemar. Okay, where? El Shenemar, as it says, ba'atzotayim. With this is being read as in the laziness, like being atzel, yimach hamikre. The mikre will become weak. So what does this mean? Shil atzlus shahaya. Israel, because of the laziness, shelo asku b'Torah, they did not fully involve themselves in Torah. Sono shel kadosh baruch hu. Before we talked about soneim shel chabidei chachamim and soneim shel Israel, here we're talking about sono shel kadosh baruch hu, which is a way of saying God. Okay, but we don't want to say something bad about God. But it's as if God became mach, weak. Our lack of Torah weakened God. Ve'ein mach el ani. Mach means a poor, to be weak, or to impoverish. V'imachu me'erkecha. Ve'ein mikra. How do you know mikra means God? El HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar ha'mekareh amamayim aliyotav. God spreads his upper chambers with water. So, and again, with water, so means the rain will be weakened. Now here, besides the idea of Torah, water, rain, water, and that obvious connection, I think the other point here is also about this whole thing I was talking about the sense of the how the intimacy and God's presence, manifest presence and connection to us. Our learning of Torah is our way of being close to God, right? Our way of connecting to Dvar Hashem, right? And let's also not forget that, Dvar Hashem comes down from heaven like the rain comes down. Yizal kamatar likhi. So our side of that relationship is our learning of the Torah. If we weaken our side, then we're also like weakening, God, as it were, and we're weakening God's ability to, be present and connect to us in a similar manner. And that way of God's connecting, is expressed through the rain. So there really seems here to be not just about Torah as water, but about this sense of this relationship and this, and this way of manifesting the connection. We do it through Torah. If we're weak in it, then that weakens God's connection to us as well. Okay. Rav Yosef Amar Mehacha. Rav Yosef says from here, we'll do the last thing. Ve'ata lo ra'u ur ba'hir hu b'shechakim v'ruach avra v'titaharei. And you did not see the clear light up in the heavens, and the wind will pass through and cleanse them. Vein ur el Torah, the light is Torah. Shenemar ki ner mitzvah Torah ur. Bahir hu bashechakim, and so therefore, if we were not ra'u ur, so then the wind passes away and clears the sky of clouds and clears away the rain if we did not see the light of Torah. And what's bahir hu bashechakim? It is clear in the heavens. Taanit Rabbi Yishmael, afilu b'shar sherakia nase behorin behorin, even when the heavens are like little splotches, meaning that it's getting dark and cloudy, lahori talamatar, and it looks like it's gonna rain, but if you didn't learn Torah, ruach avra v'titareim, a wind will pass by and cleanse it, clear it from clouds, so there won't be rain. Okay, so I guess we'll end here. We'll pick up tomorrow with other reasons why the rains might be withheld. All right. That was a fun daf.